Splash Brothers is kind of a unique name. I think it fits well.
Two Splash Brothers, Curry and Klay. It still looks good, doesn't it? He checked. Steph is on one right now. It's just purity. It's a work of art. Thompson, another three. It's good. How are they not guarding him? Do you know who that is?
That's my Splash Brother right there.
The Splash Brothers reunited. I can get used to that again.
I mean, you saw it right there. The Splash Brothers, the NBA's deadliest duo from deep. And it isn't hyperbole to call Steph and Klay Thompson the most dangerous shooting backcourt in NBA history. Because they were 13 years together, 4 NBA championships, and changing the style of offense in the NBA. Now, Klay has departed for Big D, and now Steph and Steve Kerr must do the splashing all by themselves. Earlier Sunday night, they both sat down with our Malika Andrews.
So, Steph, one of the last times that you and I did this, you told me that it didn't even feel close to the last dance for the two of you, Klay and Draymond. When did that change?
I mean, we talked about it a lot just in the sense of the journey that we've been on. Obviously, me since 2009, Klay's a 2011 draft, Draymond, and then when Coach came in 2014, and what's happened since. We would have loved to maintain, the core and finish out together, but we obviously understand the league and things change, and having Klay head on to Dallas, it's tough. It's something that I never imagined would be a reality, but you want him to be happy, you want him to be able to enjoy the game of basketball. It does suck losing Klay. There's no two ways around it. So you have to be able to celebrate what we accomplished, but then be able to move on.
When the season starts next year, it's going to be really weird. And I know we're all going to have that date circled when he comes back to Chase. And that will be one of the strangest, most emotional nights of all of our careers, for sure.
All good things must come to an end, and the Warriors still with many familiar faces in the starting lineup. They got Curry, Wiggins, Green all started 50-plus games last year. Pajemski started 28 games as well. The Warriors also added Buddy Hield via free agency, DeAnthony Melton, and Kyle Anderson also on the roster to improve their
being with Klay his rookie year. And then the next year, that's when they brought in Draymond. That's when they brought in Harrison Barnes. That's when Steph took off to that another level. For me, watching him grow into a dominant player and seeing how much he meant to the franchise, the organization. But I've seen this before. I saw it when Jason Kidd left New Jersey. He turned the franchise around, and they were like, you're on your end. We don't know what we want to do. And guess where he ended up? He ended up in Dallas with still left in the tank and won another championship. So we see this often. I will say this about Klay. The Warriors look really bad right now. Say what you want about a competitor who feels like he's disrespected, and Klay, how he's been up and down. At the end of the day, this looks far worse on the Golden State Warriors for not being able to get a guy that's still averaging 18 at 39% shooting. You're not able to bring him back with really, we're not seeing much of a plan around it.
So to Perk's point, Brian, I mean, what does it mean that Klay ultimately chose to go with the Dallas Mavericks versus the Lakers and ultimately the Warriors?
It means he's angry.
Yeah.
He's angry. Things a lot of times end badly, otherwise they wouldn't end. That's a famous saying for a reason. The Warriors were in Chicago this last year when the Bulls were celebrating the, I don't know, whatever year it was. And you
right,
remember
the Ring of Honor.
And Jerry Krause, who's passed away, got booed, if you remember. And I remember, Steve Kerr was out there when it happened. And I remember thinking, this is sort of a warning to the Warriors. When you come together in 15 or 20 years, don't get booed. But it's hard. It's hard to end things this way. And look, the reason that they stopped playing him is because he wasn't getting it done. The reason that they only offered him, what's that?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the 0 for 10 in the, the play-in game and all that. But
they felt that the other players were better options.
Well, no, let me also say this really quickly. I've never shared this before out of respect to Klay. This is on Christmas Day.
Of this past year?
Of this past year. I get off the elevator and I see Klay. I'm like, oh, Klay, what's up? He's like, oh, what's up? I'm like, hey, man, keep your mentals right. He's like, man, tell him to pay me my money. This was on Christmas Day. So on Christmas Day, a guy that had won 4 championships, and I don't give a damn what anybody says, how much money they gave him over the years, because he turned their franchise around. That franchise is worth billions of dollars, not just because of Steph, it's also because of Klay. They changed the game. It wasn't just Steph changing the game. It was Steph and Klay in that backcourt.
Absolutely.
So I say that he has a right to be mad.
He bet on himself.
Yes.
He said, I don't want the 2 years, $48 million.
Mm-hmm.
He bet on himself, and then he didn't have a good year.
But that's fine. That's fine.
Standard.
You can have hundreds of millions and have a bad year and be like, you know what that does? That means if you're going to treat me this way, I'm going to go someplace else. And now the Warriors are left, and Klay's in a much better situation than the Warriors are.
And he walked for nothing.
And walked for nothing.
Almost nothing. They got 2 second-round picks.
That's nothing.
But here's the thing. Even Klay, bad year, was better than a lot of guys' great year.
I agree with that, and they were willing to pay him $24 million a year.
Yeah, but Wendy, it goes back to the point of what he watched other guys get, right? When you go back to watching Draymond Green, if you go look at when he got his $100 million, his stat line wasn't eye candy.
Ooh.
It damn sure wasn't attractive.
And it wasn't coming off a perfect year either.
Yeah, so it was almost as if, you know, they were paying him for what he done in the past and not what he's going to be able to offer in the future. Klay like, well, damn. I was part of this, and I helped build this.
Yep.
Why I'm not getting the same respect?
Yeah,
but
he had reasons to turn it down. I'm not saying he had his reasons to turn it down, but then he was playing in a situation where they literally said, we're going to take you out to finish games, we're going to take you out of the starting lineup. Like, that happened.
I think timing is important here. So Wiggins gets his new deal, and Klay's looking around at all this. Wiggins gets his new deal after they win the title and after he plays the best basketball of his life. Draymond gets his new deal a year later after in the second round. The difference is he's an unrestricted free agent. It's a now or never kind of thing. Klay had time left. I'm not saying it's right. And like, if you're Klay, you helped make this team what it is, and the bitterness is completely justified.
But at the end of the day, the Golden State Warriors, they have to be thinking, okay, what's the best way to maximize the end of Steph Curry's career? And I guess they've decided that Klay Thompson is no longer a part of that picture. So, Brian, can the Warriors...
Mavs remain 11-1 to win the title after yesterday's news broke about Thompson joining the team. All right, Shanae, I'm going to start with you on this one. How close does Klay put the Mavs to a title?
Ooh, this is a good one. It's twofold. Just like Wendy's first answer. And by the way, Wendy, I love the unqualified successful celebration day. That was a bar. How close does Klay put the Mavs? You know, the Mavs were truly the dark horses of the NBA season, especially after the trade deadline. And dark horses are very fitting for Texas, a Texas team. Now, getting Klay Thompson is a step closer to true contention for them. And I'm talking about, like, big contention, getting back to the NBA Finals. Because if there were 2 major criticisms that the Mavs had during the NBA Finals, it would be, how would the most dominant player in the NBA fare against the most dominant team? And Luka did struggle even though he led the postseason in points and rebounds and assists. And if you think about it, there were countless opportunities that Luka had based off of the gravity that he possesses, that he generated for his teammates. And they got themselves in a hole. I remember the number. They shot 9 for 31 in the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. They shot 24% from 3, the worst in a series in 10 years. Now enters Klay Thompson. Now you have a guy that is one of the, if not arguably the best catch and shooters in the NBA. Klay has made the most catch and shoot threes over the last 10 seasons. So he will help plug in and fix that hole. But I think the other big criticism that the Mavs had was not just their catch and shoot off of Luka, it was also their defense. Our research team at ESPN had some wild numbers that I think set the internet on fire, talking about defensive blow-bys and historically bad defense. The Mavs, their number one priority has to be to fix that, because as much as Klay, we knew earlier in his career, he's that 3-and-D guy, things have sort of changed. So you will fix the offense, but how will the Mavs fix the defense? If they can solve those 2 points, they could be back where we just saw them a few weeks ago.
Well, Klay is such a good fit in Dallas, and that's the reason he picked the Mavericks. And that's when, when free agency started, that's why Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd were out here in L.A. meeting with him, because they wanted to show him what he already knew. Klay knew he was going to leave the Warriors for months. It was not a surprise to anybody there. And so he spent the spring shopping for a new team. He was watching the way the Mavericks were playing. He saw the Mavericks missing all of those threes in the finals, and he obviously saw he'd be a perfect fit there. So I'm not surprised the fit. The thing about it is, when you look at different situations with different teams, what Klay was doing for the Warriors last year may not have been the type of thing that the Warriors needed, but it is exactly what the Mavericks need. It's not just because he's a perfect fit for the Mavericks doesn't make him a perfect fit for the Warriors, especially if he had wanted a salary that was much, much higher than this. This salary, this role, this team, this time really does make sense because what you saw them need, as Chiney was talking about, is exactly what Klay can provide. The guy is going to take 500 catch and shoot 3-pointers or something next year, and he's going to make hundreds of them. He is going to have some nights where he just kills the opposition. He's going to look great for the Mavericks. It's going to be a really good fit. The reason you just want to see it a little bit more, first off, when it comes to the whole West, it's a very competitive situation. It's not a commentary on the Mavericks. It's just look how good these top teams are. Look how good the Timberwolves are. Look how good the Nuggets are. The Oklahoma City Thunder have had the best offseason in the Western Conference. They've absolutely smashed it out of the park, and they are only going to get better. The thing that you look at this transaction and you worry about a little bit if you're Dallas, he is going to replace Derek Jones in the starting lineup. That is where his role is going to be, and he will get those minutes. Jones is a terrific athlete. He's going to go play for the Clippers now. The trades that they made, they had to make 3 trades to make this Klay Thompson transaction work. And they moved out Josh Green, who's a quality backup. They moved out Tim Hardaway Jr., and they lost a Jones. And so you take a really good defender with great athleticism, who was a rim runner, who was that lob threat, and you put Klay in, there is a loss there. There is a defensive penalty there. There is an athleticism deficit there. So there's definitely as with Klay, but there are going to be some concerns, especially the defensive end for Dallas.
Well, we know that Klay is nowhere near the defensive player that he used to be. But I think this puts them much, much, much closer to a title when I factor in everything that you guys have talked about, what the numbers looked like in the finals. I mean, these were Boston and Dallas, the 2 top teams this season in threes attempted during the year. It's no accident that they ended up in the finals from that standpoint. But Boston was second in terms of three-point shooting percentage, and Dallas was 13th. You saw all the misses in the finals. Part of that is because of outstanding perimeter defense from Boston. Part of that is because we know that Luka wasn't anywhere near 100% in this. So I think you add Klay, somebody who has been there before and now is at a different juncture of his career and can be very effective if they employ him in the role that he's going to fit in the most. And that's playing 30 minutes a night. That's likely being on the floor at the end of the game in terms of needing somebody to make a big shot. And it just takes some of the pressure off of Kyrie and off of Luka, 2 guys who have come together in the last year after that failed initially, and they seem to have found the right chemistry together, and now they add somebody who has been there and won 4 championships. All of those are very good things. The one thing I do think that we need to remember is that, second half of the year, really after the trade deadline, the Mavericks were much, much better defensively. And it was a surprise to a lot of us because it had been bad, very bad, as Chiney was talking about, historically bad at times. I'm not going to sit here and expect them to be a dominant defensive team. I will expect them to be more consistent in that regard.
I want to ask you, Wendy, because there was a lot of conversation about the fact that Klay could end up in LA with the Lakers. What does this say about the Lakers that he chose the Mavs over them?
I just think that it says the Mavs are in a better spot, and that's not a controversial position. The Mavs were just in the finals, and the other thing was the Mavs were more aggressive about this. The Mavs, like I said, they made several trades to clear this situation out. The Lakers made no trades. Now, that doesn't mean that they didn't have some things on the runway that if Klay had given them the nod, they couldn't have done. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made the offer to him. But I just think the Mavs are in a better place. There's a better spot for him. There's a more clear path at Dallas. I don't know exactly how JJ is going to coach with the Lakers. JJ could end up giving the Lakers a terrific bounce, and the changes that he has made could end up really changing their situation. But right now, it's a little bit hypothetical. And if you're Klay and you're really trying to win, because you're taking less money here, the amount of money that he still could have gotten from the Warriors, he's going to get less. than if he had. I think I know they hadn't really given him an offer in the last few weeks, but I think if he had prioritized money, he would have gotten more. So he's taking less money. He wants to go to a place that can win, and Dallas is just that. And I also want to point something out, because I've seen people comparing the Lakers offer to the Mavericks offer like they weren't close. I think it was reported that the Lakers were offering $80 million and he ended up signing for $50. I just want to be clear about this. The Lakers offer for $80 was over 4 years. This offer with Dallas was over 3. So it's not years to years. If Klay had demanded 4 years, I think Dallas would have gone there. And the differences in the annual value when you configure in the taxes are really not there. So financially, there wasn't significantly a difference between the Lakers offer and the Mavericks offer, maybe a few dollars. I don't think money had really, at the end of the day, had anything to do with it. I think he just liked the opportunity in Dallas to win quickly now.
Wendy, yeah, you probably could have been a financial manager, because you got those numbers all in order. No, you still have one hired?
Yes.
No. To me, what this says to me about the Lakers, I think we had this stark realization when it went to entering the play-in and even the postseason. This was the first time that we saw, I believe, KD in the 6th spot in the West. We saw LeBron in the play-in. We saw Steph in the play-in. And there is a transfer of power happening right now in the NBA. I mean, it's the young guys. It's the young squads. It's not the collections of the big threes. It's actually teams built off of chemistry and ethic. And so when I look at Klay not choosing LA, I do think that me being in LA and talking to a lot of Lakers fans on the day-to-day basis, it's hard to process the reality when expectations don't meet it. Because, I was just thinking yesterday that the Lakers franchise has been so good when it comes to the transference of power and still winning championships. From Wilt to Magic to Shaq to Kobe, and now we're in the era of LeBron. Even though LeBron is trying to transfer powers to Anthony Davis, there has still been this reality that they can still pursue championships. But the truth is, as Wendy alluded to earlier, the West is just lined up different. It's hard for them to compete, particularly with the way that their roster is built. And the fact that people are not choosing LA, I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, I don't want to play for the Lakers. The reality is that they don't want to play probably for a team that is still trying to fight to get out of the play-in, that has a lot of questions, versus Klay Thompson looking at a team like the Dallas Mavericks that has a lot of upside, that has Luka Doncic, who, if Luka is not coming off of this last NBA Finals run more motivated than ever before, because we saw him respond to a lot of the criticism, but it was too little too late. You have a lot of key pieces of this new guard of the NBA. And I do think for the Lakers, it's tough to process that you have LeBron James, you have AD, but still it's hard for you to land free agents, because in generations of the past, it's like, you want to come to Hollywood, you want to come to LA, because this is where your game will go to supernova levels. But that's not the way the NBA is designed now. As Wendy said, there's OKC. I think the Nuggets will have something to say. The Dallas Mavericks are coming. The transfer of power for one Lakers franchise has shifted to a transfer of power to new guard in the NBA, that I think Klay sort of realized, hey, I have a better chance at winning here versus this expected reality of what the Lakers had been.
It really doesn't say very much good about the Lakers right now. And I know that we're going to talk about the Lakers all the time because they're the Lakers, and it's LeBron, and it's Anthony Davis. But didn't Klay Thompson just tell us a lot about the Lakers situation? Like, there have been little hints here and there along the way about whether or not they were a true legitimate contender. Let's look at some of the history here. When was the last time the Lakers were higher than a 5 seed? It's been like 10, 11 years, and I know they've got the summer camp championship from a few years ago, and maybe I'm downplaying that a little too much, but I'm looking at Klay. He's got every reason to want to be a Laker. You've got a chance to play with LeBron. You've got a chance to play with AD. You are exactly what they need. Your father is still calling the games for that team. You could not have more ties to an area than Klay does to LA, and yet, does this really ever feel like the Lakers were a real consideration in all of it? It really doesn't. It doesn't feel like that at all. And I get it, with state income tax, the money is not really all that different because it's only a 3-year deal. But if you're Klay and you want to show the Golden State Warriors that you still have a lot left and that they did you dirty, your best opportunity to do that is with the Dallas Mavericks.